Henry Cejudo, he should retire if he loses at UFC Seattle. Go back into retirement. If he can't beat Song Yadong, then he's squarely into gatekeeper mode, and I don't even know what Henry would be doing hanging around at that point.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's an overreaction because I know that Henry always has kind of lofty goals. He did the double champ thing. I thought him retiring when he did in May 2020 was the worst thing he could have ever done. Never understood it. I don't know if he was trying to get bigger paydays and get the UFC to be like, no, come back. We want to give you a bigger payday or
What it
whatnot.
sounded like at the time. Yeah, that's what it sounded like at the time, but who knows?
Man, he was in his prime. He was so good. The win over Dillashaw, the win over Cruz. He just looked like sky was the limit. And I know a lot of people will still put him down as a great and whatnot because the double champ thing seems to do that for people. But man, I mean, those years away clearly impacted him. And credit to him, he is fighting tough guys. Aljamain Sterling, Merab Dvalishvili. Those aren't easy tasks. Obviously, we see how good Merab is. But yeah, if you can't beat Song Yadong, a guy who has some good wins, but doesn't have these crazy big wins, right?
Yeah, he doesn't have the signature, the big signature dubs. He's come up short. This would be it. This would be it for him.
This would be it, exactly. So he's fallen short against Corey Sandhagen. I think his most recent win is Chris Gutierrez. Yeah, if you can't beat Song Yadong, then I don't know. It wouldn't be like I know he calls himself the greatest combat sport athlete of all time. You stick around the sport too long, you start losing to kind of the bottom half of the top 15. That's when people start forgetting the good things that you've done. Yeah. So Henry seems to always have big goals. And I think he just did an interview with Home of Fight where he was saying like his goal in the beginning when he came out of retirement was to fight then champion Alexander Volkanovski to go for the 3 title thing. But then obviously coming back, things didn't work out for him after losing back-to-back. So yeah, he's obviously has these really, really big goals. And if you can't beat Song Yadong, yeah, I wouldn't think it's the worst thing in the world for him to retire.
Listen, he's 38 years old. He fights in a lower division where speed, is everything. So listen, if you can't keep up, quite literally at this point with someone like a Song Yadong, who is, not the upper echelon of the rankings, he's right behind them. They're right middle of the pack. So I mean, you've got to win this fight. It's crazy. Like as you're naming off the Henry's resume, he doesn't have a victory against anybody who's currently in the UFC. Dominic Cruz, Marlon Moraes, TJ Dillashaw, Demetrius Johnson, Sergio Pettis, Wilson Heiss. Like he hasn't beaten anybody. That's a bad sign when you haven't beaten anybody on the current roster in a long, long time. We got issues. We got issues, and that's if you can't get this one, I think it's time to hang it up.
I think it was tough for him in the Aljamain and Merab fights to get out grappled. It's not something that he's familiar with. He's obviously known as Olympic gold medalist wrestler and whatnot. So getting out grappled against those guys, the way he was picked up by Merab and stuff. I think those were a little bit, they kind of hurt your ego a little bit because although Henry can strike, he's a very good striker. And obviously he's done, he knocked out Cruz and he knocked out TJ Dillashaw, didn't resort to his wrestling there. But I think sometimes when he kind of tries to rely on certain strengths and they're not there, then I think if he doesn't go out there and have a dominant performance even against Song Yadong,
he needs to be dominant. Wow.
It needs to be dominant because if you're just gonna skate by Song Yadong, who's a tough dude, don't get me wrong, guy can crack, like he's a great fighter and can go the latter rounds as well. This being a 5-round fight. Yeah, I don't know if you're talking about titles and you want to be right up there. Because, how would you even sell a rematch with Merab, right? The hope would be that Merab doesn't stick around as champion. But there are still big fights for him. There are guys like Sean O'Malley. There are guys like Corey Sandhagen. But if you don't beat Song Yadong in convincing fashion, like O'Malley is being talked about in a rematch, right? He lost a fight quite convincingly to Merab. But that's the star power he has. So if you're Sean O'Malley and you're not impressed with Henry Cejudo, I can see him being like, I don't want to fight you. You know what I mean? Like he needs to go out there and really have like a good performance. And I think he knows that as well.
Well, we'll see what kind of Henry we get on Saturday. I'm curious to find out. Hard to know when he's dialed in and when he maybe is not dialed in. I hope he's dialed in for this one. I hope we see the best version that we could see and let's see what result we get, but I think it's going to be time for Triple C to move on again back into retirement if he can't get the job done on Saturday night.
MMA Junkie AI.